We've had folks that rode a bike once upon a time. Maybe they haven't ridden a bike in like 20, 30, or 50 years. So it's not like they know how to ride a bike. Again, the confidence has eroded, and also their bodies have changed. And then we also have folks that maybe they never had a chance to learn how to ride, period, at all. So that's a bracket. And then we've had folks that have suffered stroke or traumatic brain injury and have limited mobility or hemispherical ability. And so again, having that like stable, low center of gravity has been a great rehabilitative option for them. Some of them, you would see them walk up with maybe a cane or a walker, like very limited walking mobility, and then they get on the trike and they just take off.
Welcome back to Cities in Motion. I'm Jacob, the podcast for anyone who wants cities built for people. Each week, we dig into the systems, design, and culture that shape urban life and explore how smarter transportation, better planning, and thoughtful policy can make our communities more livable. Today's episode is also the final episode of the season, and it felt right to close things out with a conversation about everyday mobility and who our streets are really for. My guest is Darek Hanson, the Austin team lead for Ghisallo Cycling Initiative. Ghisallo's work shows up all over the city, in schools, on neighborhood streets, and in programs built for riders of all ages and abilities. If you've seen a bike bus heading to school, adaptive cyclists reclaiming independence, or brand new riders building confidence on Austin streets, there's a good chance Ghisallo had something to do with it. We also dig into the Wishbone Bridge, why it matters for everyday mobility, and what it takes to help people actually use new infrastructure once it opens. Let's get into it. Why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us about Ghisallo?
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Darek Hanson, and I've been with Ghisallo Cycling Initiative for almost 3 years now. I'm the Austin team lead. So we have two branches, a group here in Austin, and then a similar group down in San Antonio doing very similar parallel work. And Ghisallo itself, Ghisallo Cycling Initiative, has been together, going on like 15 years now. And the namesake, Ghisallo, or in Italian, Ghisallo, it comes from the Madonna del Ghisallo, which is the patroness or protector of cyclists. This was declared by the Pope in 1949, so it has that kind of blessing. And so we, or I should say, Christopher Stanton, who started the organization back in 2010, 2011, rather than giving it a name that was tied to a place, he wanted it to have a bigger feeling, a bigger sense of connection to this like storied history of cycling and protection for cyclists. So the Madonna del Ghisallo has that kind of like background, and there's even a museum there near Lake Como up on a hill in a church that has all this paraphernalia dedicated to cycling and the Giro d'Italia and Tour de France and all that stuff. So yeah, we consider ourselves the protectors of cyclists in central Austin, or central Texas.
That's such a cool story. I didn't know that. I've been participating in the Bike to Work Day for 2 years now, ever since I've moved to the area, and I really appreciate you guys hosting it and touring us around Austin. Ghisallo works with cyclists of all ages and abilities. How intentional is working with younger kids to older citizens? How is that approach different, and what does it look like in practice?
Yeah, no, I love that question, because we were even talking about this recently because we're doing some planning around the Wishbone Bridge opening, and we wanted to do something that brought together our different groups that we work with, which includes golden rollers, which are aging populations, and also adaptive populations, adults that have different cognitive needs, different physical needs, and using recumbent trikes. And that's on kind of one end of the spectrum. And then we work with kids who are just learning to ride, like really young kids, all the way up into elementary school, where they're building confidence on the road or navigating their neighborhood in the city through our bike clubs. And then we also work with adults and teens and adults in the middle range, where they are trying to figure out how to get to school or how to get to work, and how to make that a part of their regular quotidian life, part of their routine to do the things they do, and also just access cool places by bike and not be not have to be tied or tethered to a car or vehicle. So it's exciting. Like you said, like how does that all come together? Well, it's really fun when we can do an event that is accessible to all of those different groups, because we do work with them in isolation in different ways that is really specific and catered to their age and their abilities. But then when we can do something like, yeah, like the Wishbone Bridge coming up, or last year we did an event in collaboration with the Shoal Creek Alliance. And so we did, it was a rain garden tour, and we had lots of people of all ages. We had families, and we had some older folks that came on and used our trikes. And then we had kids riding with their parents, or we might have had a younger kid riding on the back, of a seat of their adult bike or their parents' bike. And so we were all able to access these different rain gardens across central Austin and stop and park our bikes and take in the scenery, talk to the people at the situation, and learn about their water-wise landscaping. And then we even incorporated a picnic into that ride. So it's really fun when y'all can bond around that and realize, like, okay, I do feel safe out here. Maybe I feel safer, definitely feel safer in a group supported by my peers, but then also like to have all of these role models of all ages to look up to, and then vice versa, to like be inspired by young people that are getting into riding. It's really just, it goes both directions.
The bike buses programs have gained a lot of attention here in Austin and all over the world, all over the country. What makes a bike bus so powerful for kids, families, and neighborhoods beyond just getting to school?
Right. Yeah. So kind of like I was saying just a second ago, part of it is building confidence and also feeling like you're not alone. And when you're commuting, either as a kid or an adult, you have your own sort of traffic pattern, or you have your own commuting pattern. You're coming from different places. You've got different schedules, different routines that you're balancing. So either getting there, getting to school, or getting home from school, it can be hard to sync up with other people. And so you do kind of feel like you're isolated, or you're taking this challenge on your own. So with the bike bus, it creates this community, this group of riders that ride to school together. They settle on a shared route, and sometimes that can look different, differently for different schools, different situations. Have a single meetup spot, like Russell Lee Elementary has a single meetup spot in Hyde Park, and they all ride down together a set route once a week. There's Brentwood has kind of like a pickup style where they hit different points along the way, and so there's kind of like different meetup. It does feel more like a bus in that sense, or a train where you stop, you add some people, and then by the time you arrive at school, you've got this full party bus of.
It looks super cool.
Along. Yeah. Yeah, and that looks different ways across the country. Bike bus program itself here in Austin, this is really fresh and new. Like the city of Austin last summer, and then moving into this fall, took it on itself to collaborate with their Safe Routes to School and their crossing guard program, with the goal of hiring people who because there are a lot of people that just volunteer and want to do this out of the joy and goodness of their hearts.
Coolness of it, yeah,
the coolness of it, or they have kids that go there, and so it's just natural. But that, again, schedules and life can change, and then if you lose your champion, then you might lose some steam with the bike bus. The city's trying to also provide a funded route where like people can, from whether they are involved with that school already, or if they're just a general member of the community, they can get involved. They can train up with us, with Ghisallo, and get all the expertise, so that it's not just, having to create something on their own, or recreate the wheel. The city looked to us and said, look, you already know how to do this. You've done a lot of this in the past, or you collaborate with a lot of schools. Let's put a formalized program together where we train community members, ETA, volunteers, and show them how to effectively and safely organize and manage a bike bus.
Awesome. I wish that was like a requirement for every single elementary and middle school here in Austin. It would be so cool just to see like hundreds of bikes on the road every morning. And it's to and from school, correct? Or is it just to school?
Yeah, that can vary by school. Every situation is going to be a little different. And a lot of times they will ride home from school, but that's the idea. Like they build that confidence riding to school together. And also that's a time when it tends to be darker in the morning. So it is, like you say, it's to have like a group of people that's visible together, that not only makes them feel safer, but it also just sends a message to the community that like, there are kids and families that are riding to school. Let's slow down. Let's give them space. Let's just, marvel at this beautiful thing that's happening. It's like a bike parade, like a free parade. We
Yeah.
get to watch this beautiful parade. And so that also sends a message out to the community just to be aware of this is what's happening. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Wishbone Bridge. I could talk about bike buses for an entire podcast.
Yeah.
Wishbone Bridge. I am super excited about that. I saw it getting started in like 2023, and every time I pass it on my way home from work, it was built a little bit more, a little bit more. Do we have like a week or a date or a month when it's going to be open? I see it and I'm like, oh, it's done. I really want to like run on it, but any word on that? Do you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like you could probably venture out there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where there's always the last sort of 5% or 1%, and it might just
Mm-hmm.
be like a piece of railing that isn't in place, or the little bumps at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
so you have that audible or sentient feeling of like, oh, I'm entering a bridge, because
Mm-hmm.
there are different ADA pieces
Yeah,
that
of
they
course.
infrastructure. So I don't know what is left. You could probably safely venture across it right now. It's not, I don't know that it's officially open, but it is should be like done any day now, any week
Yeah.
now. And then yeah, this is like you said, we've all been watching this progress and actually progress very rapidly. It's
Yeah. I
incredibly
heard
fast.
it's
Ahead of schedule.
way ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great. I mean, that's sometimes unusual. A lot of these things, especially because this is so unique. I don't even know what kind of permits it requires personally. I don't know to build infrastructure like this across the lake. So maybe it's so novel that they didn't
Yeah.
run it as many roadblocks as they would if they were in the streets or in the neighborhoods. But it's exciting. Obviously, it's a huge showpiece, and some people would look at the price tag and think like, why? Like this is too much, or but you think about all the volume of people that used Lady Bird Lake, runners and walkers and people, cyclists like myself, and it's recreation. It's a transit corridor. I use it to safely cross from one side of the city to the other to get between our programs or just for life. And it's having these showpieces is sort of one part of the transit equation of like showing that we care about all these different types of transportation options, and we care enough that we want to build something that is like a beacon to the world that says, hey, come to Austin and ride this beautiful Wishbone Bridge, ride the boardwalk that we've created along Lady Bird Lake. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
these have been like scaled down or smaller, but by going big in these selective ways, like we send a clear message to the world. We also send a message into the community that these things matter, and it doesn't overshadow the other work that's happening. And I can talk about that too. But yeah, the Wishbone, the official ribbon cutting will be on Friday, the 6th of February, and then
Okay.
yeah, coming up quick. It's definitely gonna be done before then. I know that.
Yeah.
And then the next day, Saturday the 7th, we'll be organizing in coordination with the city of Austin and also the Trail Conservancy. There will be an official celebration, more community-wide celebration when people aren't at work or juggling other things.
Yeah. Um, um, Infrastructure alone doesn't change the behavior of, say, drivers. How does Ghisallo help people feel confident actually using new bike connections like the Wishbone Bridge once they open?
Yeah, no. That's a great point. It's not a magic wand. It's not a silver bullet. None of these things alone will change behaviors. It takes shepherding, it takes support, and that comes from all sides. For example, there are other pieces that you've probably been seeing emerge and evolve, and these are coming out of 2016 and 2020 bond packages where there's been a very intentional and very, I think, well coordinated effort to update a lot of intersections, a lot of the ways that bikes and cars and buses and pedestrians all interact at the most critical junctures, really. I mean, intersections are where a lot of accidents happen and fatalities happen. And so reducing or creating more visibility for all of those different users. So making pedestrians more visible, making cyclists more protected, even just the design, like the engineering and around these like new intersections. I'm sorry, I'm like obsessing about the intersections, but they're there, and it's exciting because it feels kind of just it feels sort of ordinary. It's not a Wishbone Bridge. It's not like a Southern Walnut Creek Trail that goes from Go Valley Park to Manor. So it's not big in that way, but it is big in terms of behavioral change and what we're talking about, like trying to both engineer behavior change through literal infrastructure, so shepherding people to act a certain way or narrowing streets in strategic ways so that cars have to slow down, like creating intentional, not barriers, but intentional,
Choke
yeah, like
points
choke points.
or
Yeah, exactly, choke points.
okay.
Yep. So, and doing so in a way that, we're not trying to like make driving tedious, but
Mm-hmm.
we're also trying to create some compromise where you don't need to be speeding through this area. This is a neighborhood, or this is a really dangerous intersection, and you don't need to whip around this corner. So all those things are helpful. Now, in addition to that, yeah, Ghisallo, what we do is through our partnerships with the city, Get Their ATX, Transportation Public Works, we make an effort to highlight these new developments through community rides and through commuter trainings like beginner city cycling, where we get people comfortable who may not normally ride as much or aren't aware of these new developments or don't feel like they have a safe route and maybe just don't realize, hey, there's this new road or this new infrastructure that will make you feel safer, and yeah, maybe avoid this street or that road. But if you go this way and come along with us, and we can show you a safe way to the theater or to the library, to the park, like doing these kind of everyday kind of activities so that people feel comfortable making the choice between a car or a bike or I'm going to walk and I'm going to take a bus. We're doing some multimodal adventures this year, coordinating with Cat Metro, coordinating with the bike share. We did a fun trip last August. We did a collaboration with Save Our Springs and Barton Springs Pool and Cat Metro, and it involved taking a bus and then getting on the electric bikes, the bike share, and then riding to the springs and then swimming in the springs and learning about doing an underwater scuba adventure. Scuba, sorry, not scuba. You know what I mean? Snorkeling. It was a snorkel tour, but it was truly, 3 or 4 different modes of transportation all piled into one adventure. So we try to put together experiences like that that get people inspired to do more than just drive as a single passenger in a car, because we know that you've probably seen the graphics where you have all these single passenger cars in traffic in a city street, and you take the cars away and it's just like this sparse grid of people, and you can't transport efficiently or effectively city people that way. You need these other forms of transit. You need to be investing in and utilizing public transit and using bikes. So that's a big
Yeah.
part of our push.
Yeah, and even if you love your car and want to drive it every single day, what you guys are working on, what the city's working on, is giving people more options and making it safe and efficient. And also, if you love driving your car, it's easier to drive your car because less people are inclined to that's the only option they have is to drive. It makes their commute easier too.
Absolutely. And I think it'll help drivers too. I know right now there's a little bit of a learning curve, and I felt that too as a driver. I'm not just a cyclist, I'm a
Hmm.
driver and a pedestrian and all these other things. So it's a little bit of adjustment period where you're encountering these new intersections or new bike lanes in places you don't expect them, or a crossing beacon, and being more aware of what that means and the fact that you need to stop, that there's a cyclist or a
Hmm.
pedestrian crossing. So all these things will take some time, but I think the consistency is increasing so that people hopefully will build that muscle memory of this is what I do here, and I'm going to slow down here and adjust my behavior a little bit.
You talk a lot about the Golden Rollers program. What does mobility independence look like later in life, and how can bikes play a role?
Yeah, yeah, we've been seeing more and more, aging users that they'll come to our programs because again they feel safely guided on the roads, and not everybody has the resources or access to a recumbent trike, for example, which are super comfortable and super stable, but they're also bulky and they're cumbersome. So it's not like something you can just throw in the car and take somewhere to ride. So we have different collections of trikes, the fleets that we use around the different parts of the city. And this gives them a chance to explore the neighborhoods and have a recurring, like a weekly social club that they can look forward to. That's both exercise and interaction with their peers. But yeah, with that, there's also been electric trikes and folks that are really just striking out on their own, want to ride and be more independent. So we also get some outreach from them or provide some support to individuals that are trying to do that.
Great. And I think of my grandfather and how many other people's grandparents where they kind of lose their independence as they age, and you're giving them the ability to get out on a bike, giving them more independence and confidence with this program that y'all run.
Yeah, and it's good you point that out because we've had folks that rode a bike once upon a time. Maybe they haven't ridden a bike in like 20, 30, or 50 years. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like they know how to ride a bike. Again, the confidence has eroded and also their bodies have changed. And so we take away the stigma of like a trike. Like they're cool. Like it's like Mario go-karts, honestly.
Yeah.
The recumbent, the tadpole styles that we use, really any of them are fun to ride. And then we also have folks that maybe they never had a chance to learn how to ride, period, at all. So that's a bracket. And then we've had folks that have suffered stroke or traumatic brain injury and have limited mobility or hemispherical ability. And so again, having that like stable, low center of gravity has been a great rehabilitative option for them. Some of them, you would see them walk up with maybe a cane or a walker, like very limited walking mobility, and then they get on the trike and they just take off. Like it's
Awesome.
unreal.
Do you want to take a moment to talk about cycling safety? What lights to use, how to size your helmet, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So helmets are awesome, obviously. I'm an advocate for helmets, and we do 5 steps of helmet fitting. That's just core to our teaching because we want people to feel comfortable in their helmet, and it's not just the helmet they have. In fact, they might discover that the helmet they have is not the right fit, and it's like trying on shoes. Once you have the tools to work with, you can go and figure out, okay, this fits well. This is going to be work for me, and if it feels good, I'm going to use it. And so we teach that to all of the groups we work with, kids, adults, and seniors. So helmet safety, number one. We talk about, but also then we talk about how the helmet doesn't create a force field around us. We really, as important, and sometimes even more important, is just spatial awareness or awareness of your surroundings, your environment, using all 5 senses, not wearing earbuds, not being fully engaged in the activity of cycling so that you are enjoying it, number one, but number two, and the other order around, the other way around, like you're being safe and you're enjoying it. Because you're also being safe for others. You're being predictable, and that's one of the real pillars is being aware of your surroundings and then being predictable to other cyclists, to cars, to pedestrians. Part of that is communicating your intention, so using hand signals, verbal signals if you're in a group, so that other people behind you know what's happening or what's coming up. If there's an obstacle, but then also just being interactive with and proactive with the different users you encounter so that you see, it's not me and like cars have to conform to what I do because I'm a renegade cyclist or something, I want them to feel like I see them because I want them to see me too. And yes, like I have the right of way sometimes and they have the right of way sometimes. And we're all out here trying to like negotiate that in a peaceful way so that nobody gets hurt. Nobody wants to run over a cyclist, I hope. I don't think. But also there's things that we can do that make ourselves more visible and more predictable. And then likewise for cars, it's important that cars follow all the laws and make full stops and look for pedestrians and look for cyclists and also respect crosswalks,
Turning right on red. Yeah.
turning right and red, being extra cautious about that, like, not rolling through these intersections. Yeah, but for cyclists, we go through all the visual and the verbal signals. For on the road, we talk about lights too, because especially this time of year, we were talking about riding to school. It could be dark, or it could be dark when you come home from work, or you might decide to do something on the weekend, and suddenly it's later in the day and you hadn't planned that. So making sure you've got appropriate lights, red tail light in the back, white in the front, and then like yeah, if you've got it, like just have some reflective clothing on your bike so that if you get in that situation, you put it on. I pretty much always wear it, especially when I'm taking my son to daycare or home. Dusk is a time when we really kind of underestimate the visibility or invisibility of
Hmm.
cars and bikes both directions. So that's a time of day where there isn't as much contrast. The lights are especially important because again, there's a lot of camouflage that happens at dusk, and like that transition in the morning dawn where you're coming out of the darkness into the light. So yeah, bright clothing, very visible, and light yourself up like a Christmas tree. I'm saying on that.
Yeah. Looking ahead, what's one upcoming project or program that you think could quietly reshape how Austinites think about everyday transportation?
Yeah, there's well, one of them that's coming up this spring. There's a couple I can highlight. Critical mass is something we partnered on last year with Parents Climate Community, and it was great. We had a couple hundred kids all riding together with families and parents in the Mueller district. So a real safe area
Hmm.
for riding. But taking the concept of critical mass, which is kind of like a adult bike takeover of the streets, but giving kids that experience you know in a safe way, in a very visible time of day, and in a safe neighborhood to do that. And it was cool because yeah, for like the bike bus in a way, but bigger, a massive bike bus, people just sort of stopped and realized, okay,
I'm
I'm
outnumbered here.
outnumbered here. Like, yeah, we're gonna let this bike parade go by, and then
Yeah.
go about my business. So that's gonna be really fun. That's coming up right before Bike Month. That's gonna be April 26th, a Sunday. That's gonna be exciting. And again, it's just one of these visibility events that can not only inspire the people that are going to it, that are involved, but then people see it and are just like, okay, I see you. You're out there. Like sometimes as a cyclist or as a pedestrian, like you feel isolated. Like I was talking about with commuting and with the bike buses, we're all doing it, but we're coming from different places and we're on different routes, so we don't necessarily see each other or realize that we're all out there at the same time. So an event like that gets you everyone in the same place doing the same thing, and it's very visible. And that's a good segue to bike to school day and bike to work day, because it's the same concept. It's like there are families or kids that bike to school every day, but maybe they're on their own or with just a friend or just their parents, and other parents aren't always aware of who else is out there doing the same thing. And so having that solidarity and having that visibility is really special. And it also gives the kids something to look forward to and work up to. Critical mass and bike to school day, like it's a goal. Like if they haven't been doing it, then they can start doing the things they need to do, like get confidence on the bike so that and pre-ride the route with their family on the weekend so that they would feel comfortable when bike to school day comes around. And we'll be providing some support to school staff and PTA around that also.
Awesome. I'm going to ask you a question that wasn't on the list, so I apologize.
No, I love it.
I like to ask this question to all of my guests. What is a book that you have read recently on the subject that you recommend?
So, not specifically around bikes or bike infrastructure, but a book I read recently that is just inspiring and thinking about the way the world's set up and the way that we've created routes and trails. It's called On Trails, and I have to look up the author real quick. On Trails. What's really Robert Moore, Moor. So this book is written about. I mean, he goes back millions of years to
Hmm.
the earliest sort of cellular organisms and the sort of microscopic trails that they create in the way that they navigate their world, their microscopic world, and all the way to animals over time, different cultures over time, the value that's placed on continents and countries and states and cities. And I just think that's a really great book for anyone to read if they're curious, if they like maps or if they like trails, or if they're like me and that you're thinking about transit all the time. It's a little more, pedestrian oriented, a little more like hiking centric, but
Yeah.
the concepts apply to all.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. I haven't heard of that, and I'll try to check it out. For listeners who are inspired but unsure how to engage, what's the easiest first step to getting involved with Ghisallo, whether as a writer, volunteer, or advocate?
Yeah. So you can contact us a few different ways. The website, ghisallo.org. There is a volunteer link there, and we're doing some updates, but there is a form that you can fill out to express interest in all the different different activities that we provide to the community. And that's true for Austin and San Antonio. And then we post events on GivePulse. We've got a couple coming up, like the Austin Marathon. Although that doesn't sound like a cycling event, we run and have run for many years the Mile 20, which I think is the most rockin', most raucous station. It's late in the race, and people really need like an uplift.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just gotten bigger and busier every year. They've added like 5,000 runners last year. Probably gonna be bigger this year, and we get a donation from the Austin Marathon to our organization, so indirectly it supports all the work that we do, and then we do a campaign match to go with that. So there's just there's a lot of synergy. I was saying synergy, but it's a great way. Although it's not cycling oriented, it's really fun. It's on February 15th this year, right after Valentine's Day, Sunday the 15th. So that's a great opportunity. We'll be posting information about that probably this week. And then you can always check us on Instagram, Ghisallo Cycling. We post up opportunities there or talk about events coming up. There's ongoing opportunities, and it can be tricky sometimes, but folks that have a hybrid work schedule, sometimes it works out for them to join us on our bike clubs. We have after school bike clubs around the city, and they'll start up again in February and run until probably early May in most cases. And that's a great opportunity. It's really low commitment, but happens once a week. It's so much fun. The kids just love you. Like they're just like, we get to go ride bikes, and you're like a bike god or a bike goddess, like bike. They just treat you like royalty most of the time. Not always. They get rowdy too, but it's really
Yeah.
fun, and it's so much fun. We worked with a group from Mendez Recreation Center this fall, and I would say over 2/3 of the kids came into the club not knowing how to ride, and or only could ride with training wheels, and we immediately put them all on balance bikes, on regular bikes, but we removed the pedals, and within a couple weeks we had them all riding. Like
Very
the
cool.
the kids who could ride were already off the races. The kids who were learning were not too far behind, and like that's just such a great feeling to be part of that, something that could be part of their lives for many years ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to meet. I look forward to hearing more about you guys online, and I really look forward to Bike to Work Day every year.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. I really appreciate
All
it.
right. That wraps up my conversation with Darek Hanson from Ghisallo Cycling Initiative. If this episode shifted how you think about biking, mobility, and how streets can work for people of all ages and abilities, you'll find links in the show notes to learn more about Ghisallo, including ways to ride with them, volunteer, or support their work across Austin. And with that, we've reached the end of Season 1 of Cities in Motion. Over the past few episodes, we've talked with organizers, planners, advocates, and everyday people who are pushing in different ways for cities that are safer, more human, and more connected. Whether the conversation focused on biking, walking, transit, or public space, the through line has been the same. Cities work best when they're built for people first. I'm going to take a short break before the next season, but Cities in Motion will be back with new conversations and fresh perspectives on how we move through our cities and how we can make them better. If this show has meant something to you, sharing an episode, following the podcast, or leaving a review is one of the best ways to support it and help more people find these conversations. Thanks for listening, thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you next season on Cities in Motion.